Hello, Senior 2 students. Today we are going to study Part 2 in our textbook to the max, Unit 1, the vocabulary part, the part you care more about, I know. So in this part we are going to discuss their definitions, relating it to our previous part, the reading text, and giving more examples to clarify their meanings. And then in our next part, inshallah, we are going to answer some exercises to check our understanding about this vocabulary. So in Unit 1, we have active and passive vocabulary, and each one is divided into nouns, verbs, and adjectives. So now let's start with the nouns in the active vocabulary. So we have noun number 1, uncertainty. And uncertainty is a noun, means a nervous feeling that you may have because you think that bad things might happen. And the synonym or another meaning, distrust. You distrust what will happen. And the antonym or the opposite is confidence. For example, he accepted the position without hesitation or uncertainty. It means, or in other words, he was afraid or he accepted without being afraid of what will happen. And now number 2, sorrow. Sorrow is a deep and great sadness. So it means that it's greater than sadness. It's a feeling greater than sadness because it is caused by loss, disappointment, or other misfortune suffered by oneself or others. And the synonym is grief. And the opposite or the antonym is joy. And again, joy is a feeling which is greater than happiness. So, for example, I felt sorrow at the death of my dear friend. So I cannot feel just sadness at the death of my dear friend. In our reading text, we have the example, the writer's journey was full of memories, uncertainty, and sorrow. So it means that the writer's journey had many feelings, which is more than sadness. We have noun number 3, escort. Escort is a noun, means a person or maybe a group of people or vehicles or ships or whatever in order to protect the others or to prevent them from escaping. It's something like a guard or a companion for the others. And for example, the bombers were protected by a fighter escort. This means they were guarded or protected by a fighter at their escort. And in our reading text, we have the example, when the writer's journey across the border started, the light of the moon was their only escort. It means that they were guarded by the light of the moon only, which was scaring for him. We have noun number 4, irrigation. And irrigation is a noun, means the practice of supplying water to an area of land. And this happens through pipes or channels so that crops will grow. For example, the crops need daily irrigation. It means that the crops are needed to be supplied with water every day. And during the writer's journey in the desert, the only thing they found was an irrigation canal to get some water. So they wanted to get some water or supply with water through this irrigation canal, which is used for fields and farms. Noun number 5, dehydration. Dehydration is a noun, means a dangerous lack of water in the body. It is resulting from not drinking enough water. This happens by vomiting or maybe for having diarrhea, which is not good for our health. So, for example, athletes drink lots of water to protect themselves from dehydration. So they need more water to be protected from dehydration. And for example, by the time the writer arrived to Arizona, he had sore feet and suffered from dehydration. So he suffered from dangerous lack of water. So he needed to drink lots of water. Noun number 6, obstacle. Obstacle means a difficulty or problem that prevents you from achieving your goals, from achieving something you need. And we have also barrier and block, and they are two other nouns means obstacle. And for example, he overcame the obstacles of poverty and neglect. So poverty and neglect were obstacles or problems which prevented him from achieving his goals that he overcame or won over. In our reading text, for the writer, school was an obstacle because they were undocumented immigrants. So school was a barrier, was a block, a problem for him to continue living in the USA because the schools need documents to join. And we have now number 7, official language. Official language is the language that is commonly used in the legal, political, and educational life of a country or a place. So, for example, their official language in Algeria is French. So, in Algeria, the language or the official language which is used in the media and the newspaper is French. In our reading text, according to the writer's point of view, immigrants have hard times for being unable to communicate in the official language of the country. They cannot communicate with the language which is commonly used in the country in legal documents, in political, in educational way. Number 2, the verbs. We have verb number 1, stray. And stray means a verb which means to move away from the correct place or the path. Or in other words, to wander away alone from the others, away from the others. So for example, we were worried about our son as he strayed away from his friends. So he left his friends and went away. He moved away from the correct place. So we were worried about him. In our reading text, the writer's parents advised him not to stray away from the group, not to go away from the group, not to move away from the correct place while he was with the group in the desert because he might face danger. And we have verb number 2, quench. Quench is a verb, means very simply to drink or to satisfy your thirst. For example, the farmers quenched or drank. They quenched their thirst means to drink at a wayside spring. In our reading text, although the writer could smell and taste earth in the water from the river, he didn't care much, as all he wanted was to quench, to drink. Verb number 3, exploit. Verb exploit means to treat someone unfairly in order to get some benefit for yourself. In other words, to make use of someone. And this happens unfairly for your own benefit. For example, he has exploited his opponent's weaknesses. It means that the player exploited or made use of the weaknesses that he knew about his opponents, and this happens for his own benefit to win. In our reading texts, the writer's father had a goal to have his own business so that he could work without being exploited by the others. So this means that his father wanted to have his own business so that he was not to be used unfairly or not to be treated unfairly by the others. And we have the adjectives. We have here number A and B, and they are two confusing somehow adjectives. We have economic and economical. And what's the difference between them? Economic is an adjective which relating to economy, okay, but it's related to the production, the distribution, and consumption of goods and services in a country or a region. It's not related for oneself. For example, the Egyptian government is putting a new program to prevent economic collapse. So it's related to Egypt, to the country. And it's not for a personal use. But economical, number B, is an adjective marked by careful and efficient use of resources. It's a personal usage. For example, my car is an economical car. It doesn't need a lot of fuel. Number 2 is an adjective undocumented. And undocumented means illegal or without legal documents. For example, the writer's parents couldn't send him to school because they were undocumented immigrants. They have no legal documents for being immigrants. Number 3, fortunate is an adjective which means lucky, and the opposite is unfortunate or unlucky. For example, not all immigrants are fortunate. Not all immigrants are lucky, as long as there is so much that they have to go through. So the fortunate ones, they might face less problems or less obstacles. And adjective number 4, official. Official means it's relating to the position or the area or the size of things. In other words, it means authorized, and the opposite, non-official. For example, the vice president is on an official trip. It's related to his position. It's an authorized one. It's related to the government, and it's not a personal trip. And now we have the passive vocabulary. The nouns, number 1, opportunities. Opportunities is a noun, means the chances. For example, the writer's mother knew that he could have a better education and work opportunities or chances in the USA, so he decided to stay. And we have nouns, number 2, A and B, which might be confusing again. What's the difference between border crossing and border? We have the noun border crossing, which is a place on the border between two countries where people can cross, and they should have their passports to be checked and to go through customs. For example, the writer's brother was too young to make the dangerous border crossing. His brother was young, so he couldn't have crossed the borders. But border as a noun is the official line itself, which separates two countries or regions. For example, he grew up in Malaysia, near the Indonesian border. These are the border itself. And we have now number 3, benefit. And benefit has many synonyms. It means advantage, merit, help, profit. For example, according to the writer, migrating has its benefits, has its advantages, and can often breathe new life into a relationship. So it's this one of the benefits or one of the advantages or the merits that migrating might have. Number 4, diversity. Again, it has many synonyms. Difference, dissimilarity, disagreement in point of views, or variety. And the opposite or the antonym, similarity. So for example, the city is known for its cultural diversity, for its culture difference. And number 5, noun, cultural shock. The cultural shock is the confused feeling that sometimes some people have when they arrived in a place with different culture from their own. So this might happen with some of the Egyptians when they travel to the European countries. We will find many different cultures from our own. For example, immigrants also get to experience the differences between different cultures, which is different from their own, of course. And this is what is known as a cultural shock. We have now number 6, indication. And indication means a sign that something is true or something exists or something will happen. For example, there were many indications that he was thinking of changing his current job. So there were many signs. This means many signs or many things exist which show that he is going to change his current job. Noun number 7, filter. Filter is an object or a piece of equipment, and this is used to allow you remove solid parts that are not wanted from a liquid or a gas. For example, the writer's only filter to drink water from the river was a piece of cloth. So he used a piece of cloth as a filter to clean the water, to purify the water from, or to remove the solid parts from it so he can drink it. Number 8, we have the noun graduation. And the graduation is a noun, means the act of receiving a degree or other qualification after finishing your studies at a college or university. So, for example, we had a party to celebrate her graduation from high school, like you next year, inshallah. Number 9, noun supplies. It's a noun which is usually used as a plural noun. It means things such as food, medicine, and equipment that you need to live or to perform a particular activity. So, for example, the writer and his group ran out of supplies. They ran out of water and food. They didn't have enough water or food when they were in the desert. And we have the verbs. Verb number 1, rip. Rip means to tear something. For example, he ripped the page out of the magazine. He took it out. He tore the page out of the magazine. And number 2, we have dine. Dine, it comes from the noun dinner. And it's a verb, means to take dinner or to have dinner or to give dinner to someone. So, for example, she likes to dine at expensive restaurants. She likes to have her dinner at expensive restaurants. This is what I mean. And we have verb number 3, fulfill. Fulfill means to achieve or to accomplish your goals, maybe your targets, your aims. For example, immigrants have better opportunities to fulfill or to achieve their goals in the country they are migrating to. We have verb number 4, cherish. And verb cherish means to look after someone or maybe something because you love them very much. So, for example, I will always cherish this memory. I will always love it, take care of it. I will always cherish my family. I will always take care or look after them because I love them very much. And we have number 5 and 6 are somehow two confusing verbs. So we have in number 5 verb immigrate. And immigrate is a verb, means to come to a country or into a country, but this happens for permanent residence. For example, the city has a large immigrant population. So the immigrants are the people who are going to stay permanently in this country. And the immigrant is the noun and the adjective for verb immigrate. And in number 6, we have verb migrate. So migrate is different from immigrate because it's a verb which means to move from one country or a place to another. But this happens usually periodically for a period of time, I mean. And I have migrated is the adjective for migrate, and migrator is the noun for verb migrate. For example, he migrates from New York to Florida each winter. So he is not going to stay in Florida as a permanent residence, but this happens each winter for some reasons. And we have the adjectives. Number 1, sore. Sore means painful, when you feel pain. For example, the player has sore muscles. So after the match, so means his muscles were painful for him. And we have the adjective crammed. Crammed is an adjective, means completely filled with things in a very small space. For example, his suitcase is crammed in lots of clothes. And we have the adjective offended. Offended means to become upset or to feel hurt or angry by something said or done for you. So, for example, I felt a little offended by their lack of respect. So, I felt upset or hurt, or I became angry because they didn't respect me. Number 4, we have the adjective isolated. And isolated means it's an adjective of feeling alone and unhappy at the same time. So, for example, the camp is located in an isolated area, in an area which is alone, and you feel unhappy in this place. And we have adjective number 5, precious. And precious for things is different from for people. For example, for things, when you use the adjective precious for things, it means valuable and worthy. For example, precious jewelry, it means valuable, it's expensive, and it's worthy lots of money. And if it's used for people, so it means they are highly estimated, they are cherished. For example, he is my precious friend. Of course, it doesn't mean that my friend is expensive. He is highly estimated and cherished for me. And now we have the phrasal verbs. We have number 1. Of course, you mean that phrasal verb is a verb plus its preposition and with different meaning from the verb itself. So we have the phrasal verb number 1, run out of. It means to use up the available supply of something. So, for example, the writer in his group ran out of supply. It is finished. They use up the available supply. And we have number 2, take care of. And take care of means to attend or to provide for the needs or treatment of. For example, the writer's parents decided to go back to Mexico to take care of his younger brother, to attend and to provide the needs for his younger brother. And we have number 3, get together. Get together means to meet or to reach an agreement or to bring together. So, for example, he often gets together with his friends after work. They meet. He always meets his friends after work. Number 4, we have the phrasal verb go through. And go through means to come to a desired conclusion, to pass by. For example, there are so many difficulties that immigrants have to go through to pass by in another country. And the phrasal verb number 5 and the last one, to come to an end or maybe to die, if it's used for people. For example, immigrants can often end up feeling isolated because they don't fully understand the relationships around them, so they come to an end that they feel isolated and offended. Okay, so that's all for today. Goodbye. Wish you the best of luck. Waiting for you to follow our next part, the part which we are going to answer some exercises to check our understanding. Thank you so much.